Hey everyone, welcome to The Heroes You Deserve. I'm Henry.
I'm Mike.
I'm Richard.
And this episode we're going to be discussing our review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume Dos. So we all went to see it separately. It's a rare time we usually go together for the group experience, but just happened. Life matters.
And we apologize, obviously, for not having put out content sooner. But like Henry said, life has been happening.
And we got to take this opportunity to welcome all the new subs that we've had recently. I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah. Those of you that subscribed to our awesome Comic-Con giveaway, thank you and welcome.
Yes.
We're happy to have you with us. This is sort of our format. It's three dummies sitting at a table.
Sure.
We're going to shoot the shit, talk about the movie. It's all very... we're not going to drill too deep down. We're not going to be super serious about it. We have our opinions. You obviously have yours. If you like the movie...
Yeah, your opinion is wrong, of course.
Well, yeah. I mean, to be clear, what we say...
To be fair.
Yeah, if not quite yet. No, I didn't. I rephrased it for that specific purpose. Right. Drinking games are going to be a thing. There are catchphrases. You can watch all of our backlog. Links in the description to the playlist if you want to get in on the jokes. But this is sort of where we live. This is just three nerds talking about nerdy movies. Hopefully you enjoy it.
Right, and while we're thanking all of our new subs, we also want to thank Ramsey for also inviting us again for the second year in a row to South Texas Comic-Con. I mean, we had 3 panels, a panel for every day, and we met some of y'all there.
Yes, thank you all for joining us. There was a number of you.
That was really...
Richard, you want to just chime in here? You actually seem to go over pretty well with the crowd.
Well, that's what logic does, Mike. When your argument actually makes sense, people actually start nodding their heads. He goes like, you know what? This guy knows what he's talking about.
I threw you a bone, and I'm sorry I did.
So it was really nice.
It's my fault. I'm sorry.
Everybody there, I saw all the nodding heads, and to their dismay, they were shocked to see that. But I think I made a little bit of sense, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, we all are fans of what we like, and we're going to see what the good things, we're going to see the bad things, and it's just a lot of fun having, friendly talks and just... like Mike said, shooting the shit about it and just having fun with it. And
it's a different perspective. I mean, some are more biased towards DC than others, but we're going to get a different sense. I mean, and we're all from different periods of comic book collecting and some knowledge. So the three of us, the three wise men, kind of sort of offer a different perspective. Three wise asses. How about that?
I'll co-sign on that.
All right. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Overall, I liked it. I don't want to give my overall review just yet, but I liked it. It was funny. Mike, what do you think, Mike?
The Mile High View, again, I also enjoyed the film. It was a lot of fun. There was everything you wanted from the sequel. It was more of what you got in the first time. And this specific cast, I think you could have doing just about anything in any setting, and I get that the writers understand that it's not so much about what they're doing, it's just that you're going to watch these people do stuff because they're fun personalities. We'll drill down deeper into what specifically I'm talking about later in the episode, but that's the sense I took from it. There was the right kind of character development. I got more of what I wanted from everyone's story, and I'm left wanting more.
Richard, overall, I mean, Mile High review of it, good, bad, in between?
It didn't suck.
Okay, good.
I mean, I think the first one was better.
Okay.
But it was good. It was a nice entry into the canon of the MCU. I mean, it was enjoyable in parts. It had its rough spots. But overall, it was decent. All
right, let's kind of go off on that. I know we're all in agreement in regards to one of the major problems of Volume 1 was the villain. How did you think the villain was this time around in Volume 2?
Okay, so we're all agreeing here that there was 2 of them. Again.
Two villains?
I mean, you had
You had 3.
Well, there was 2 that I really kind of... Who was the third?
Okay, so you had... in the first film...
No, I'm talking about the second one.
I'm gonna do this.
Okay.
I'm gonna do this and lead you through it. In the first film, it was very much the Nova Corps, Ronin, and Yondu. He had those three opposing forces against him at any one time.
Okay.
So it was a lot of moving parts in the first one. In this one, we have the super uptight,
The Sovereign.
the
Spoiler alert, by the
sovereign.
way, just in case.
Yes, we have the super uptight sovereign, who are the perfect race.
Sure.
We have the Ravagers, and then we have Peter Quill's father.
Oh, so you consider the
Which,
Ravagers?
let's pump the brakes
Okay.
here before we go any deeper, and just give everyone it's been 2 weeks. I think it's fair to say those of you that wanted to see the film have.
Plus, it's in the trailer.
Yes, it very much is in the trailer, but we are going right down to spoiler town. So if you're not comfortable with that, maybe go watch the movie, then come back and watch this at this point. Pause it at whatever timestamp it says. I may even link that in the description so that you know spoilers begin now. So, yes, and we had Kurt Russell as Eagle the Living Planet, Peter Quill's father. So those three separate entities were sort of working against not everyone at once, but
yeah, it was like
there was a lot of moving parts in this one as well.
There was a lot of stuff going on, and it got a little distracting, maybe, because really the Ravagers were only against Yondu. They weren't really against the Guardians per se, other than by association. The Sovereign were basically against Rocket because, he stole the batteries.
He's a little thief.
Being a raccoon.
And then you had the whole ego thing.
He's a trash panda.
It was just there was a lot going on, and it was really hard to I focused primarily more on, I didn't really consider the Ravagers, because it was kind of like a subplot between the Ravagers and Yondu.
Yeah.
But it was more the Sovereign and Ego.
I'll go with that.
And Gamora as well. Or Nebula, rather.
But do you think? Ronin was the main villain of one, and we all had issues with Ronin.
He was the big bad, yes.
and the motivation, and
yeah,
and Marvel's has had a weakness.
So to your answer,
sure.
Yes, the Sovereign's entire reason for being in this movie was their anger that Rocket stole batteries.
Okay.
So that is pretty flimsy. I mean, they could have done a better job of giving them a better motivation.
But given the type of vehicle we're dealing with,
Yeah,
don't you feel
that's fine.
appropriate?
We can give them a pass.
I think Ego is the main villain.
Then we'll go with Ego as a main villain.
Sure.
But he was not everyone's main villain. So you know what I'm saying.
Right.
So you're having a
initially.
team, and this is, I guess, one of my issues with the movie. It's a team movie,
And
but segments of the team had their own separate villain.
Yes, they had their own stories.
So it was weird.
Okay.
And I don't know that it succeeded as well as maybe they
I
wanted.
took that a little differently. I did notice that the story was disjointed. I think what it was each of the team reconciling sort of what was still bothering them from the previous film.
I think minus Groot, everyone kind of came to terms with their own problem or
Everyone
villain.
sort of got a little bit of resolution. Obviously,
Right, absolutely, resolution.
Drax will have none until Thanos is brought to justice.
And Groot, not so much, but Raccoon,
Groot is still, recovering from dying
Sure.
and being reborn.
termites.
Yes, and Rocket is still
But he
not
can't
even comfortable in his own skin and making an enemy out of his friends just because he's uncomfortable
Right.
with himself.
Right.
He still regards himself as a little monster, and instead of waiting for the other shoe to drop and having everyone turn on him, he's making that happen. He's driving them towards that ultimate end and pushing people away because he figures that's where everyone's going to go anyway.
But he's also self-destructive. I mean, we've already established
100%,
over
yes.
2 movies. So I think it'd be very tired if in the 3rd movie, the reason why there's a bad guy is because of something Rocket does again. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
The writing's been pretty clever so far. It
really hasn't been clever. It's been functional, and it seems like they're wasting Adam Warlock. You're having Infinity War down the horizon on the MCU, and Adam Warlock, who was very vital to that story, is not going to be in that movie because
Correct.
he's only going to be in Guardians 3,
Correct.
which really doesn't make any sense. But whatever they're doing, it's just weird, and it kind of takes you out of it a little bit if you at least know somewhat of what these characters are. And that's my point. That's always been Marvel's ace up their sleeve. They rely on people not knowing that much about these characters, and so they can pretty much do whatever they want with them, and people are going to go, yeah, that was awesome. And it's it's okay, but I mean they're doing all kinds of weird things with these characters, and it's just
good though, because I mean,
well, it's only good when it serves your purposes. When another company does it, it's not good. It's just it cannot be. It has to be consistent. We as movie goers have to be consistent, and I will be consistent. I have to be. So if I enjoy what Guardians did, and there were some things that I did enjoy from this movie, but there are some liberties that they take that apparently no one else has the liberty to take. So if I'm going to be called out on one side, I have to be called out on the other side. I'm just trying to be fair. And this one took a lot of liberties. That's all I'm saying.
DC's taking liberties with characters as well, though.
Absolutely.
I mean, we look at what they did with Constantine.
Yes.
That was criminal. I mean, they
100%
counted on nobody knowing what that character was.
Neither company is innocent of this, but let's just call it fair on both sides.
It's a writer's technique, and it's a lazy one. I'll grant you that 100%.
Okay, and that's all I wanted to say. It is lazy writing.
Lazy bit of writing when you're banking on your audience and not really knowing the source material and just relying on that. Yet the majority of the dollars are going to be spent by people who have no idea what they're about to watch.
Yeah.
You have to sell it with the trailer. It has to look super cool. It has to be fun.
And this little guy right here. I mean, what was his purpose?
Oh my God!
Other
what
than
was his purpose?
selling toys?
If he did nothing else but do the opening number to that ELO song, that would have been enough.
But he saved the universe.
He did save the universe.
Well,
to be fair, twice.
Actually, that opening sequence
beautifully in the first film.
That opening sequence bothered the hell out of me.
Are you fucking crazy?
Why? Because it was just an excuse to have him in the movie.
So fucking what?
I would have rather seen the fight.
The fight was secondary. That's where you get the. And this is where it makes me crazy because I don't think you understand it. Because
is this the mood
description?
Is this the mood thing about Gunn and his genius?
Yes, 100% this. Okay. And I'm going to go on this rant because I think you need to hear it again because I'm not getting through. Clearly.
Okay. What is?
We have these opening sequences that are.
Every movie does.
Yeah, sure. Every film has its opening sequence that's meant to set the tone for the film.
Yes. Yes.
With the first film, we got the Redbone song and Peter Quill dancing. Hey,
right.
Awesome, great. It's cool. It's funny. You know what you're about to get into. We got the same thing with Guardians 2, amped up 1,000 times with a bigger budget. It was beautiful. It was this what should have been an awesome action sequence featuring these characters boiled down to this awesome little dance number. How else can you do that? How else can you have so much cool shit happening in the background?
It sets the mood.
But it doesn't.
It's so easily ignorable because...
You see, it doesn't. Because the best parts of this movie are not the comedic parts. They are the serious parts. And if you take the entire what's his name? I just
Yondu.
Yondu. If you take the entire Yondu subplot... folks. If you take the entire Yondu subplot out of that movie, it's not as good as it should. It's not as good as it is. The Yondu subplot made that movie as good as it is. Everything having to do with his redemption, the conversation that he had with Rocket, the conversation that he had with Peter Quill.
Yondu was tied into the ego.
I get it, but that was a serious part of the movie. There was no joking. The tone there was completely different. So I get what you're saying.
Well, look at the very opening sequence of the first one. It was super sad.
But this,
you're watching this young child watch his mother die.
It just didn't work, and that worked. That's why I enjoyed Guardians 1 more than I enjoyed this one.
Very James Gunn. It gives you the tragic.
Well, just because it's James Gunn doesn't mean it's good. That's all I'm saying. Because I get what you're saying.
We had a very long discussion before we started filming how Richard will gravitate towards certain directors rather than certain genres or overall bodies of work.
We all do that.
Yeah, and so we all do
that. We all gravitate to directors.
This is no different. We all find the voice we like our stories told in. In my case, I very much enjoy what James Gunn has been doing with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Certain people could say the same thing about Steven Spielberg films or David Cronenberg if you're a weirdo. David Lynch again if you're a super weirdo.
Super weirdo.
So it's not an indictment that Richard's given to me.
I'm just saying
he's just saying that I'm definitely seeing through a different lens than perhaps he is because he's not a huge James Gunn fan. I am, therefore, I enjoy his work. So it's not that we're arguing about the subject, it's just that we have a different point of view.
That is correct.
So going back to the villain. So do you think Ego as a main villain of Volume 2 had a better motivation, better understanding. It was a better villain than Volume 1 because we all had problems with the Volume 1.
I will give you that Ego was better than Ronin.
Okay.
That's not a difficult bar to surpass.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not.
But just for the fact that Kurt Russell is performing him is already a win.
Okay.
Okay. The guy is just charisma. I mean, the guy can do anything at this point, and it's going to be good.
He's Snake Plissken.
He is. Yes, he is Snake Plissken.
Plissken, and what was Big Trouble in Little China character name?
Jack Burton.
Jack Burton.
Yes. Old Jack Burton.
Old Jack Burton. So yes, and this is I guess for someone of our age or whatever, I don't see him as Ego. I see him as Kurt Russell. That's just what I do.
They were banking on all of us thinking that. Then.
Yeah, I mean, that's just me, and so I'm watching Kurt Russell be Kurt Russell, and I'm going, okay, cool. He's a celestial, and he's this living planet, and, planet is seed. I get all of that. And in a true villain-esque way, he doesn't see that anything he's doing is wrong.
Which I think makes a great villain, by the way.
Well, a good villain. I'm not going to say he's great, but he's one of the better ones in the sense that at the very least, he doesn't see that he's doing anything wrong. And he's being true to himself.
Right.
But he's not being nefarious.
No.
In any sense of the
but
word.
That's what makes it, if the mainstream audience can almost sympathize with the villain.
We didn't quite reach that level.
I don't think he did either.
Because he
came out a bit of a douche.
If he was still gonna do the evil thing he was plotting to do, and hadn't also murdered
the mom.
Peter Quill's mother to do it, I grant you that would have been okay because that's fine. But no, he went full on evil.
Yeah,
like,
there was no sympathy.
That's okay. You're not just some being that regards humanity and all life as so insignificant because you think your vision of it should be so much better.
A big ego.
Yes,
that's
even though that's
terrible.
No, this is delicious, so I'm gonna do it. Oh, we're so broken. So when he went full evil, that's when he lost all redemption. That's when you knew you were dealing with a monster. Okay. And the fact that he was so aloof about it, that he thought it was going to be completely okay to tell his son that he murdered his mother,
right.
Just, I don't know if it's good writing or just ended up being part of Kurt Russell's performance, but the fact that it was delivered so matter-of-factly and with such banality.
Again, I think it's Kurt Russell. He really did a great job.
He sold that perfectly, where he just didn't think that was going to be a big deal. It's like, oh, you get me, so you're going to understand completely that I killed your mom because she was getting in the way of me being awesome.
And another film of great CGI showing a young Kurt Russell as well.
They did a good job.
It's going to be Disney's thing for a while, I think. That's going to be what their trick.
Yeah, I mean, this is the newest movie, so you can expect that we're going to only be seeing this kind of stuff. Sure. Civil War did it with Robert Downey. You're going to be seeing this more often. Rogue One did it. Yeah, I mean, this version of the masking and all that stuff, it was probably the best I've ever seen.
Where we get into like ghoulish territory, where like studios are getting the rights to actors that are long since deceased, getting audio tracks or voice actors that are very close.
Well, we'll see how
and then doing
how they handle Leia in the next two movies.
Yeah, I mean that's.
Well, she had already filmed the second movie,
correct? Right.
And so it may affect how much she's used in the ninth one. Yeah.
Okay, so Mike, I'm going to start with you now.
Thank God.
How familiar are you with the source material of Guardians of the Galaxy and all the characters that came out in Volume 2?
There was a bunch.
Yeah.
Yes, it was quite a bit.
No,
there's been a few iterations of the.
Who are you familiar with and who are you not?
I'm actually more familiar with the initial team, with Yondu and
the original Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, they were
from the comic or from the movie.
From the comics.
Okay, no, my first was the movie.
So it was a nice treat to see them all.
The original characters.
The original characters, which I didn't realize what they were until later when I looked it up.
Yes.
That was the original crew. I'm like, oh my god.
Yes.
So that was my first exposure, albeit limited. I was aware of them. I didn't buy any Guardians books.
I was there since year one. I mean, issue 1 with Jim Valentino.
Yeah,
I'm very well aware.
Again, they were in my orbit, but they never quite made it in. They didn't land for me.
So who were those original characters? Which is for those who may not be familiar with those characters.
Oh gosh, I forget.
Sylvester Stallone was Stakar.
He was Stakar.
Starhawk.
We had
Yes.
was it Ving Rhames?
Charlie 27.
Right.
Michael Rosenbaum played Martin X.
That's right. And we had Miley Cyrus as
Mainframe.
Thank you.
And there was a female actress who played the female counterpart that's going to eventually join Stakar to make Starhawk.
Okay.
And
oh,
then-
that's right. They're the fused
Right,
entity.
fused, and then there was Krugar.
Isn't that Firestorm? I'm just kidding.
No.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Krugar
That's
is the future Sorcerer Supreme in the future.
Right. He's Stephen Strange from not
Right.
him specifically, but
Because
a later iteration.
For the original Guardians of the Galaxy are in the future, in the Marvel comic book universe. So this recent iteration of Star-Lord in the movies kind of came in the past 3-4 years, where Guardians started in the present. So the fact that we're seeing the original from the future, but in the present, it's kind of complex.
Yeah, I don't know what it means for the franchise either. I don't know if that was just a little wink and the nod to the original fans, or if it actually is going to be something that's fleshed out in the third film. I know James Gunn definitely is in for writing and directing the
But
third
from
film.
what James Gunn has said, I think it's kind of also what's going to happen to the Avengers. He's kind of planting the seeds, because he's going to end the original Guardians in the trilogy, and then the next wave, I guess, is going to be a different group, similar to the Avengers, because
That makes sense.
as we've discussed many times in our other episodes,
It's not uncommon for franchises to recast.
Downey and Evans are getting too old and too expensive, and you're going to have to phase them out to bring in.
It's happened with every major franchise.
Absolutely.
You've seen with we've gone through the half a dozen Punishers. We've
Batmans.
we have 4 Batmans to date.
Spider-Mans,
Yeah, we've had 3 Batman and Spider-Mans now,
but one Wolverine.
and 1 Wolverine.
Yeah.
No, he does have
I'm
the
ready to
healing
see a new
factor.
Wolverine.
Yeah.
He does have the healing factor.
That's
So.
true.
Yes, so
So, any other characters that you're familiar or not familiar, or maybe Ego, perhaps?
Ego was actually new to me. I had to do quite a bit of research on him to find out what he was, and to find out how close he was going to be to the source material once I saw the film. Obviously, Ego in the comics had no body.
Right.
He was an actual living planet.
He can
He
form,
could
he can form bodies.
anthropomorphize
Ego
himself,
primes,
yes.
as they call them.
But
in the comics, Ego is not Star-Lord's dad. That's the important thing.
absolutely not. But written in,
And cinematic universe is a different universe.
yeah, because
They
it's
simplify it for the mainstream audience that are not too familiar with
dummy
the
down the
comic books.
content
Sure.
because it's what's
You
up.
can't get to X-Men on them, right?
No, you can't, and that's not an indictment of
No,
X-Men,
not at
because
all.
it's even in the
Complex.
comic form was very lofty.
Sure.
You know, it was dealing with very very touchy themes.
Yeah, it was.
With civil rights and what have you. This one didn't want to be that, obviously.
Okay. Richard, were you familiar with some of the characters or concepts in Volume 2 at all?
No, I have no idea. I know who Adam Warlock is, and I knew based on the end sequence what she was referring to.
It's interesting because we saw the cocoon in Part 1.
Yeah, but I don't.
I think we're just throwing that away, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not familiar with the source material, so it's
And it's hard to say what's going to be a wink and a nod and what's actually going to bear fruit.
I know.
There was a lot of jokey stuff in there too. Some of it's fan service. Some of it may move the plot.
And I think James Gunn has gone on record to say that this movie, continuity-wise, is set before Civil War.
yes.
So there is a continuity error in this movie.
There already is a continuity error.
He's admitted the fact that the Stanley cameo, when he's talking to the Watchers, he mentioned that he is a UPS delivery, and he played a UPS delivery
in Civil War.
Civil War.
That's right.
So,
Tony Stank.
Yes, Tony Stank, exactly. So he's gone on record to say that's a continuity error, but he's also kind of did a no prize, for those of you who are familiar with it.
I'm familiar with it.
Yes, that Stanley may have portrayed a UPS delivery beforehand, before Civil War. That's his
Fair enough.
explanation. So, what do you think of the Watcher Stanley cameos?
A little bit more fan service.
Absolutely, he said.
But it was very cool seeing the Watchers at all.
Yes.
And seeing him in that context, I mean, it makes sense. It's been a long-running fan theory that Stan Lee was a Watcher in human form.
Right.
Hence his multiple appearances or appearances in every film since Inception. So I mean, again, just fan service. It wasn't. It was like, oh, hey, I did one of those for a minute, and then I was over it.
All right. So, Richard.
Yes.
All right.
Welcome back. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. Welcome.
Devil's advocate here.
Oh, boy.
Just
That's my
pick your
job.
brain, pick your brain. Here.
Lay into it.
If you were to just say anything bad about this film, I mean, not that you didn't like this film at all, but what would you say would be a bad part of this film? What do you think was the weakest link? Goodbye.
I didn't. Oh, there's a lot of things that just kind of were off. I'm not going to say that it was bad. It was just off. And again, I'm coming in, excuse me, not from the comic book because I don't know anything from the comics. I never read that comic. And so I'm assuming then that the Guardians of the Galaxy that we got in Volume 1 was not ever a team in the comic books?
They were in present day, and like the past 5 years, like we mentioned.
Okay, so they just wrote it because of the movie.
No,
the comics.
No, it had made an appearance comic-wise before they made the movie.
Oh, they did?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the Annihilation Quest and all of that stuff, and they reintroduced Quasar, and Venom was at one point a Guardians of the Galaxy member. Iron Man, Kitty Pryde was a member.
Yeah, Iron Man is a member of all the.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll just put Iron Man in everything.
True.
The pacing was off for me. It was just too disjointed. I didn't really like the fact that we didn't have the Guardians of the Galaxy as the Guardians of the Galaxy for the entire movie. It was. I know what he was trying to do. The whole, the theme with the fathers, and you have the whole, Ego and Peter, and you have, Thanos and Gamora and Nebula, and then you have kind of Yondu with Rocket and Peter, and I get it, but it didn't work. It was just too much going on. And again, this is just my perspective. I'm just trying to follow a story. I'm not. Look, baby CGI trees and talking raccoons, I'm beyond that stuff because I mean I know why it's there. I mean all comic book movies, all spectacle movies are selling toys. They all are. And so I didn't really I was just kind of looking for the story, and that's what I'm always looking for is the story. And the biggest parts of the story that spoke to me was the Yondu, Peter, Rocket, that kind of the idea that Rocket was Yondu and you're me and just kind of like the Yondu's redemption. To me, that was the best part of the movie, and it was just kind of came out of nowhere because this is a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, not a Yondu movie, and yet he was the one character I wanted to survive.
But it's a Marvel movie
because of it did not feel like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and if it did. It didn't work for me. It was just too disjointed.
Wouldn't you agree that redemption has been the overarching theme in the MCU?
Well, most superhero stories revolve around redemption.
And I've read comparisons.
It was just interesting to me that they did it with Yondu.
The best ones are revolved around redemption. You look at a guy like Superman. What is there to redeem there? He's just the best of everything. Which is why people do find him bland.
Right.
You look at a guy like Oliver Queen or Bruce Wayne, there's definitely room for redemption there.
But for me, the idea that they chose Yondu...
I know, and it's brilliant too.
Okay, and that it was. I'll give you that. But it just seems so out of place. Because, as per your words, the tone was set up to be a different movie. Even the soundtrack, like he chose the songs, a lot of the songs, like in the first movie, I knew all of the songs. In the second movie, they were much more obscure.
More 70s.
But I knew he chose them for the lyrics, not so much the music. And he was trying to connect the themes with, Brandy and, his talk with, Peter and Gamora and like that whole kind of what his mom, I get all of that. I just don't know that it worked. I think Gunn was just a bit ambitious with this. And I think he just thought that everything he did was going to connect with everybody. To me, it distracted. There was a lot of distracting things for me. And once it got down to Yondu and all of that stuff at the end, the first half of the movie was kind of a mess. The second half of the movie is where it got good. If that second half of the movie had not shown up, I don't think I would have liked it at all.
I read some comparisons. Volume 2 comparing it to kind of like Empire Strikes Back with the whole father issues.
100%, yes.
I
I immediately drew that parallel. We've had the first film where the protagonist finds out that he's a little bit special, you know, and the second one he kind of has accepted that and is in fact been it's been confirmed by an outside force that yes, you've been special all along.
That's not how the Force works.
Yeah, you didn't know it, but you all along you've been special, and here's me proving it. And then, like Luke, finds out his father is evil.
Yeah, but all of that.
Again,
then that's where it ends. And then that's where it ends, because then he was an immortal, and now he's not an immortal. So like that was interesting. Like they just took that away from him, and I get it. He made a sacrifice, and I get all the sacrifice and all that. But I mean, what does Peter Quill have now? And I mean, is the villain for the next movie going to be Adam Warlock? I mean, the Sovereign are still pissed about their batteries.
Friends.
So I mean, I don't know. It just
another thing something that you kind of mentioned off camera is that you yourself are not a fan of spacefaring adventures.
I'm not.
So I mean,
of space comic book
monster
comic
books. Yeah.
I mean, so do you think maybe that kind of may have affected your
like
experience?
I said, if I had walked in the back half of that movie and seen the back half of that movie, it was great. I mean, it was very emotional. I don't like just sprinkling in new characters that I have to Google because I had no idea. Excuse me. I had no idea who was standing behind Sylvester Stallone. I didn't even know who Sylvester Stallone was. They said his name. I would have loved to have had subtitles because I had no idea who any of these people were because I've never read the comics. So I could be just Joe Blow. I could be
comic book fans.
Okay, and that's fine. And I could be Joe Blow in the audience going, "It doesn't matter. It's Sylvester Stallone."
No, you just
cool.
think, Yondu's boss was Sylvester Stallone, and he's mad at him.
And that's fine, but that's when they introduced him on that ice planet, and then like all the rest of the stuff with him, and then the stuff that happened the back half of that movie. It was good. The first half was just off. It was disjointed. It was just kind of all over the place, and that's where it kind of lost me until it got me back. So it was not well done from start to finish. It was well done from mid to finish, but the first part was just a mess.
Okay. So, so contrary to everything you said, what would you say was the good part or the best part of this film then?
Yondu.
Yondu was
yeah, he was by far the best part of the movie.
He was one of the best.
I don't see
fucking Batista, dude.
I don't know.
How was Batista? Please
stole
elaborate.
Every scene he was in. He sold that just heart of gold, brutal dummy angle.
Don't you think that's getting a little?
No, it wasn't. We got a little bit of it in the first film. He really got some screen time this time, and it was great because he was just being. I'm trying to boil this down into a single thesis. He was being just the lovable meathead.
Oblivious.
Yes, he was. He was in two.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he was that a little bit in the first one with the whole, nothing goes over my head,
Sure.
and a bunch of other, one-liners he threw out. You, green horror, are my friend.
Right.
Little things like that where you just know he's not used to talking to people, let alone being friends with them. So yeah, it's kind of cute. In this one, he seems to have. He's very comfortable with his surroundings now, and these people, and is being sort of just like we would be with each other, just sort of, the gentle ribbing you wouldn't expect from anybody but your closest friends.
Like Abraham. Like
our friend Abraham.
Pete.
Hey, we're proud of you, buddy.
Yeah.
We are.
We're proud of you.
We're glad you finally came on.
Yeah, good for you, man. And this one we get Bluto from Animal House. He's sort of a force of nature. A comedy. He's comedic, but in a very dangerous way too, because when it comes down to it, he is still Drax the Destroyer.
The fact that he finds Mantis ugly and he wants to throw up.
Oh God, all of those scenes, and he sells everything so well. I guess it harkens back to his days as a pro wrestler, where he just knew how to.
He was a wrestler.
Yes, Dave Bautista was also Batista in WWE. The Demon Batista at one point. No, way back. That's way back. OVW days. You don't get that.
No idea.
Anyway,
no idea.
No.
So the guy's a legend. He did really well. I loved him in this movie. He was great. Bradley Cooper my wife said got lost in the movie. Like, oh, I couldn't tell it was him. But no, he's created Rocket now. That is Rocket's voice. Mm-hmm. Just like Mark Hamill disappears into the Joker,
sure.
Bradley Cooper has now disappeared into Rocket Raccoon. That's also amazing because he gives the character a lot of nuance.
His own voice.
And granted, it's a Jamie Gunn who's doing the actual
animatron or what?
The mocap.
Sure.
So he's doing all of the emoting, but it's Bradley Cooper's delivery that's really this little guy's got a voice now. You could hear a little bit of Bradley Cooper in the first film. He seemed like he was trying to still get his voice out and making sure that everyone knew that this is Bradley Cooper's voice and that's me that's doing it. And this one, Rocket was the central character. He sort of abandoned all of the low end on it. He was super high voiced and he had an actual character. You can emulate it. It's Rocket's voice is now ingrained in me. It's iconic now. I know it anywhere. He's a character. He's a small little raccoon, and he doesn't take any shit from anybody, and he's really broken because he knows he's probably terminally ill from all the shit that was done to him, and he does things that somebody that's maybe gone unnoticed their whole life would do. The acting out, the misbehaving, the doing horrible things to your friends for attention. They had the wherewithal to write that on this character, and again, Cooper got lost in the voice. May have been a little bit of audio sweetening on the back end, who knows, but Rocket has a voice now.
Richard, do you agree with the Batista and Raccoon comparisons there?
I don't know. They get I don't know. Rocket. I mean, I liked Rocket more than Drax. I think Drax is a bit one note, and after a while, it gets a little. I get it. I get it, Drax. I get it. I mean, it's all of that stuff there is just strictly to make you laugh, and that's fine. But it doesn't really push anything forward. It's cool, but it's like
moves a lot.
It's like watching a cartoon or something. It's not something that.
So do you prefer your stuff more serious?
No. I don't mind humor. If it's organic to the story, I don't want humor just for the sake of humor. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what? Let's just put something funny in here because we're Guardians of the Galaxy.
So a blunt, dopey alien.
So I mean, that's what I'm saying. So
it's not organic.
If that's all
he something horribly like.
If that is all
obtuse,
he can bring to the table, then he's not an interesting character. Like we got character. More growth. Here's my point. We got more growth from characters that were not even part of the Guardians. We got more growth from Mantis, and we got more growth from Yondu than we got from Drax.
You know what a really subtle moment was?
But it was super subtle, and that's not what we want from the Guardians of the Galaxy.
No. Here's a super subtle moment that I think was very touching. Is when Mantis touches Drax, when he's sort of feeling down, and all of a sudden she's feeling all of his pain that he's completely deadpanned through. He's looking just sort of solemn. When she touches him and feel his pain and immediately bursts into like uncontrollable tears, that was a very telling moment in Drax. And you can only do it like that with a guy like Drax.
And I get all of that.
You can't make him too maudlin and sad. You can't, because that's not him. That was a great bit of writing where a character that's probably physically incapable of emoting anything besides anger and comedy. And had his emotions expressed through an empathic creature. That it hit all the right spots for me. I don't know.
But he hasn't. I get it, but he hasn't changed. He hasn't. And that's all I'm saying.
And goddamn, you don't change him at all because
these are cutout characters, and that's all I'm saying.
Archetypes.
Even less than that, because they don't represent. An archetype is a representative of some type of character, that you'll see in every kind of movie. I mean, if you want to call Drax comic relief, you're also going to call Rocket comic relief. There was even a little bit more character development for Rocket, I thought, than there was for Drax.
Everyone had their jokes, man.
But no, and I don't mind jokes.
Even
I don't mind jokes.
and Gamora had their jokes.
It's not about that. It's about a character changing over the course of the story. And we've had 2 movies of Drax, and he's the same person in 2 movies. Everyone else kind of, sort of, has grown. Gamora didn't get a whole lot to do in this movie either. truthfully. She just didn't.
With reconciling the differences between her and her
but
sister.
she's the same person. She's the same person. I mean, you know.
She was
in other words.
The sister
in other
issue.
words,
it was Nebula.
In other words, Peter Quill at the very beginning of Guardians 1 and Peter Quill at the end of Guardians 2 is a different person. Gamora is essentially
Drax
the same
at the
person.
beginning of Guardians 1 and Drax at the
he's the same
Guardians
person.
2 is
Just
not the same
because we
person.
got Mantis to show us something doesn't mean he's not the same person. That's all I'm saying. I just don't see it. I saw a lot of growth from Yondu from season 1, from movie 1 to movie 2. A lot. I mean, we got inside the character. We spent time with him. We got to understand everything that he went through. And I get that Drax is written that way. He's just not interesting to me. That's all I'm saying. He's not interesting to me. And if he's just there for comic relief, again, I'll attribute that to lazy writing. We need a joke here, and that's fine. It works if you're going to laugh at it. But I was more interested in Yondu. I was more interested even in Mantis. I was more interested in other characters. And some of these main Guardians characters, I just became less interested in.
So there's no room in film for the heavy.
I don't know if that's the point. All I'm saying is,
you look at a Killer Croc.
I didn't think very much of Killer Croc either. Truthfully, I didn't. He was cool. He looked cool, but he didn't do anything in that movie.
He had a few funny lines.
But again, he didn't do anything. If you took him out, I wouldn't have noticed.
And if you put more of him into the second,
maybe I would. Maybe I would notice. But
and if he did sort of just more of the jokey,
if you ask
strong
me,
guy stuff, I mean,
but if you ask me, but even then, he didn't use his big strong guy stuff. He swam in one part of the. I mean, if you told me,
that's criminal because.
But that's the movie, and that's how both of these characters. I mean, if you brought Killer Croc up,
so
I did not
more
like.
Offended by the fact that it's an overused film trope than the character itself.
I'm not offended. It just didn't work for me. That's all I'm saying. Like. I was least interested of all of the characters in that movie. I was least interested in Drax.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to drill down to is that specific film trope. Like, do you find that to be sort of just unappealing? The heavy character, who occasionally will wisecrack, but is essentially one dimensional.
So I'll bring you a reference. Maybe some of you guys might not know. Let's go back a ways to Predator. Okay.
Yes.
We had a couple of
headies.
headies.
Going with this.
Okay. We had Jesse the Body Ventura,
That's
another
right.
wrestler. Now compare the writing and the performances, and you cannot compare Drax to Jesse the Body Ventura. You cannot, because that guy.
That's not where I thought you were going at all.
That guy had meat to the character. Now that guy was a heavy who I liked. His jokes were funny, and his character he was a person.
Now you're accusing Drax of being unfunny.
His humor doesn't matter to me, is what I'm saying. I don't care about him. I don't care. He could say something funny or not funny. I just don't care.
Reel me back in, please.
He's just that, Mac, the same person. Mac was his buddy in Predator. Bill Duke played him. Again, not very much. Maybe not so funny.
We got a bit of his meat, though. I mean, quite a lot of it in the end. But, gosh, what did I do?
Where did you think that he was going to go with his Predator comparison?
I thought he was going to make those exact same comparisons in how the heavy works and how Drax also, given that scope, also sort of works.
But he doesn't. But you have to agree that they were written very differently, and you have to agree that I can't remember what his name was in the movie, but Ventura's character had much more to him. And there was I ain't got time to bleed, and he was
had some
essentially
good one-liners.
But so does Drax, I guess, because that's what you're giving him credit for. But yes. He's just got nothing else behind that.
Are those characters any less iconic because all they have is one-liners? You still remembered him. You drew the same exact comparison I had in my head without even talking about this amongst ourselves.
But no, there was more to Ventura's character. Is what I'm saying.
There's room for this type of character in cinema.
That's fine. But I just, like I said, if there's room for him, that's fine.
But you're faulting him for being what he was meant to be. No, I'm
not faulting him. I'm just found him not interesting. That's all. And I think they wrote him that way. They wrote him to be funny. They wrote him
he's serving an actual purpose.
Yeah, he's a cutout character to be funny. And essentially in this movie, so was Baby Groot. He didn't do anything other than or make us laugh. And it took him 75 tries to find the fin.
That gave Rocket the opportunity and Yondu the opportunity.
Yes, so he was a cardboard cutout character, so other characters could grow.
Yes.
Okay, so Drax was a tool for Mantis, I guess. I don't know what Drax was there for. I mean, he didn't.
I think she was
probably
he existed for her to play off.
Right. and Baby Groot was there for Rocket's purposes. But those two characters, they didn't do anything for me. And again, and these are the core group. This is the Guardians of the Galaxy core crew here.
When you're talking, you can't accept full development for every single.
So when you're talking, when you're talking about this, that certain characters are used as development vehicles for others.
I'm just telling you what worked and what didn't work.
I understand. I'm not indicting you for any of your opinions. I'm actually trying to drill down onto them, actually. So do you feel like because these characters were forced to play off of another, so they were given the spotlight at another's expense, do you feel that's a shame because you would have liked to see more of these characters that were played off of, like Drax, like Groot?
I guess in the first part of the movie, it didn't feel like a Guardians movie. It felt like the new supporting characters were getting more of the time, and that's fine, I guess. I mean, if that's the story he was telling. I mean, but we got much more of Mantis than we did of Drax, and we got much more of, we got some Raccoon, I guess. Groot just kind of did what he did, but I mean, like a lot of these characters, the three major characters of the Guardians of the Galaxy were relegated to, subordinates in a movie about them. The movie there was much more about Mantis. There was much more about, Yondu in this movie. And I did not expect that. I did not expect that from this movie. And that was a pleasant surprise because as I was watching it a quarter of the way and even leading into midway, I was like, what is this movie about? Because I'm not getting the Guardians of the Galaxy. We already have the team and now they're all split up. And it was just,
this is one of those areas where I'm going to sort of,
and it didn't work for me because nothing was happening to Drax. Nothing was happening to Groot. Nothing was happening. It was happening to the other characters.
Yeah, and as I was about to say, this sort of blows up the narrative of Marvel always centering the film around their core cast.
I've never said that.
No, I'm not suggesting you did. That's an overarching narrative that Marvel sort of focuses on the hero and then gives them shit villains.
Mm-hmm.
Gives them horrible supporting actors to work against,
that, yes.
or not supporting actors in general, but the characters themselves are wooden or archetypal,
formulaic.
Yes, and in this one, we're given that the opposite of that from what you're describing, in that the supporting characters were now playing second fiddle to
the main characters.
Auxiliary characters.
The main characters.
Well, I'm not talking about like Peter Quill and that main story.
I got you.
I'm talking about like the supporting cast, where normally they'd just be sort of pushing the story forward, and the main character, Peter Quill in this case, they were instead relegated to reconciling their problems either with themselves or their family members. In Gamora and Nebula's case. We got way more of Nebula and learned more about her than we did about Gamora at all.
My favorite moment in the movie?
The end.
No, I'm not. Come on.
I
didn't hate the movie. My favorite movie my favorite part of the movie was that one kind of action shot where they were all fighting, and then we had that one still where you had all of them in that one frame, including Yondu and Mantis. And I thought to myself, this is the Guardians I want to watch, because they did such a great job with Yondu and Mantis. Like, I cared more about them than I did about Drax and Groot.
Because they actually had some skin in the game.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, I could see Rocket, Mantis, Yondu, Gamora, I guess, Peter Quill. I could see that as the Guardians of the Galaxy. And that whole sequence with him in the ship with the arrow and just him part of the group, it just looked awesome. And then, and I appreciated how he died and everything like that. But that just him and just the other, the Stallone guys, and that just was much more interesting to me.
Kind of like,
it just was much more interesting to me. Like, I just wanted to know more about that. And I really wished I could see more of Yondu post this movie. The rest of the stuff just kind of got in the way for me. It's just, that's all I'm saying. Like, at the end, it was a potential for a really, really good movie. And I just wish it had all been that way.
Kind of like in Wonder Woman as a secondary character a lot more than the main characters of Batman versus Superman.
Well, it was never her movie. I mean,
but people remember her more.
She's arguably one of the
she
better
stole the
parts.
movie. Yeah,
One
you're
of
right.
the
Yeah, she
cooler
stole
parts of that movie,
she stole
man.
the movie. She could have been the Yondu of that
fight
movie, for sure.
sequence was legit.
Yeah, it was a great introduction to her character. We got as good as the Wonder Woman looks like it's going to be. Sure. You guys still got to give props for Snyder for casting her.
That smile, like from behind her shield.
Yeah. So exactly. Good. You know, the way she kind of stole the movie, Yondu and Mantis, they kind of stole it for me.
Sure. Is that a credit to the actors though? I mean, Michael Rooker is a charming son of a bitch.
But he was kind of I didn't really care for him so much in the first movie. He did a great job. The writing, he did a great job in this movie. Just everything, not even so much with Peter, but just everything that he was in. You know, the scene on the ice planet with
so
Stallone.
The idea of a space hillbilly didn't quite hit.
Well,
home.
I mean, his accent is his accent, but whatever. I mean, it's like blue alien hillbillies.
Yeah, that's what you do if you're James Gunn. You're like, okay, be Michael Rooker, go.
Just be Merle.
all right. So that's time for review time.
I think it is.
Let's start with you, Mike. For
me, this is a solid 8.5. This is one of my probably going to go down as one of my favorite films in my later years. I don't know, not that young, I guess. But it was fun. We got a lot of really solid character development, more of the comedy and action we were expecting. We got some resolutions to some storylines, some open-ended stories and others. That's great for franchise purposes, but kind of left me wanting more. We didn't get a real, solid resolution with where the Ravagers were going to land on everything. I guess the Yondu's crew's whittled down to one guy now. So, yeah, I give this a solid 8.5. This is one of those I'm going to go back to. I'm going to watch the hell out of it. We just watched Guardians 1 for the hell of it this afternoon. Just cause. So I just popped in the Blu-ray just on a whim. The wife loves that movie. I think that's one of the things I really like about this is that it's sort of universally liked. Like, Richard doesn't love the film, but he doesn't hate it, man.
No, I like it.
He knows why it works and why it's fun and why we all enjoyed it. Here I am speaking for you when you can tell this for me later. But it's a communal experience with a great ensemble cast. I want to see more of these people doing pretty much anything. I can't wait to see the next iteration of it.
Sure. Okay, Richard.
All right.
Be honest, man.
I'm gonna give it we're gonna go points. I'm gonna give it a 6.9.
Okay.
Explain. Which is still fresh. If you're a big Rotten Tomatoes fan, sure. It's still certified fresh.
Consensus is a terrible way to judge things.
It's a C-. It's a C-. Guardians 1 did it better. There were again.
Considering you were not a fan of the first one, right?
I liked it. I think I gave it like maybe an 8. I think. I mean, you have to understand. You have to. We've talked about what gets a 10, and we were talking like No Country for Old Men and stuff like that.
Richard doesn't grade films on a curve.
No, I don't. I'm not grading just on comic book. I'm gonna give
overall.
A grade. It's on compared to
he's
all
a
movies.
Proper film snob.
Yeah, compared to all movies, I think a 6.9 is fair on this one. It's still. I would recommend it to comic book fans. I would recommend it to Marvel fans. I'm not gonna recommend it to a film snob. I mean, it's not that kind of movie, but not very many comic book movies are. I think even maybe Dark Knight is. There's
riding
moments.
The line.
That's a movie that rides the line. So I think it was. I enjoyed it, just not as much as I would have liked to have enjoyed it. I wasn't feeling the first half. The second half was really much better, and it kind of redeemed it for me. So 6.9 for me.
All right. I would give it. I'm with Mike on this. I would give it an 8.5. In discussing it with coworkers, everyone and I agree with most of my coworkers that they thought it was better than their first one. They thought it was funnier than everyone I talked to seemed to like the idea of Drax being funnier. I mean, to each their own, but I mean, I agree. I think Drax was funnier. I thought this one was better. The villain motivation was better in this one as well. 8.5 with this one, Mike. Final thoughts, anyone?
Say that one more time.
Final thoughts?
Oh no, I mean, sounds good to me.
Okay, all right. Well, that does it for the Heroes You Deserve. I'm Henry.
I'm Mike.
I'm Richard.
Follow us, subscribe, like.
Yep. Remember to hit that notification button so you know when our new content comes out, even though it's not quite as often as we'd like.
Yes.
But get in the notification squad. Remember to follow us on Twitter and Facebook.
We're active.
Links above.
Yeah, we're active a lot more on Facebook. So.
Yes, more new content coming soon.
Yeah. Wonder Woman, I think, is coming up soon.
Oh God, keep an eye out for that. I think we're all equally
and more
stoked
and more
for that.
content, and we're going to try to do more content as well.
Oh, we got some good stuff
Yes.
cooking
Yeah,
for you
there's
guys.
different
Good
surprises coming for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So thanks, Bell's Brewery, and see you next time.
Stuff. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.